Welcome to Live Life in the Spirit. We are your hosts. I'm Pastor Penny Schulz.
And I'm Kristen Scharrenberg.
So what happens when life doesn't go as planned?
It's a good question.
And when things pop up that you go, what do I do with that?
I did not see that coming.
And where is our hope? Where is our help? Where does our hope come from?
Our hope comes from the Lord.
And our help comes from the Lord. King David said that. Penned those words actually in Psalms. Even he knew that sometimes life throws us a curveball. And where do we run? We run to God. Tune in today as we are going to get real with you and just let you know what's going on and maybe why we've been on a little hiatus. Join us as adventurers through God's Word, the Holy Lands, and beyond, exploring the fascinating and the weird, the difficult and the obscure. Come and see how the stories are woven together and how they still apply to our lives today.
We promise to bring you joy, hope, inspiration, and intriguing out-of-the-box thinking, and ultimately salvation through Jesus Christ.
Well, hi, we come at you today, and we're in our same studio, but we're going to be changing things up again. I don't know about you, but I like change.
Change is good.
It's the first of the year, and, they give New Year's resolutions that I never follow through with, but change is still good.
Change is still good, yes.
We're doing a few new things. We started a new live TikTok.
Yeah, so we're going to expand a little bit more and try to reach more people. And so we're going to continue adding to our TikTok channel. And this will just be some more things recorded specifically for TikTok and also Facebook.
And it's called Get Real.
That's right. Because we are. And we think it's important to do that.
Sometimes people think that we're up here and we have all the answers. We know what's going on and that, well, what would you know? Your lives are perfect. Well, far from it.
Right.
We're just as real as you, and we are in need of a Savior just as much as you. So why we've been on hiatus, and we apologize for that. We had full plans to continue. We started doing a study on Revelation.
We did. We were very excited.
Yes,
Still
we
are.
did 1, and then we did 2 and 3. And it wasn't there.
Right.
So then we did 2 and 3 again, and it wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
So we did 2 and 3 and 4 and 5.
Because we were getting behind and felt like, yeah.
And we have the first and the last part of 2 and 3.
And it's still not there. But 4 and 5 is there.
4 and 5, but
2 and 3
is just gone.
Yeah.
Not sure why. This is a letter to the churches, and so we've been doing a lot of soul searching and asking. It's like, well, did we say something wrong, or did the enemy just not want this out there? And then we thought, well, maybe God's saying we didn't say enough of the right things.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of what we've landed on, is that there were some things we needed to add.
So we will be doing 2 and 3 again for the 4th time.
Pray for us that they record and that we can use them, because we can find them afterwards.
And then 4 and 5 will go up right away. And but we thought we would just bring you up to speed on what's been going on with us, why we weren't able to do this. Now, granted, it was the holidays.
It was.
Which helped.
It did. And at least gave you all, hopefully, something to keep yourselves entertained while we were not providing new content.
Well, it kind of started with your life blew up first, I think, or did mine? I don't know which one. I think
it's all a blur. I think it was about the same time. So yeah, for about the last 4 to 6 weeks, I have been needed. My attention has been on my family. I'm a single parent of 2 adopted boys, and one of them has been really struggling and needed my time and attention. Has been having some mental health difficulties, and so my focus was on them, and my time and energy and attention has needed to be at home. And so we are still in that process, and probably will be for a little while, but we've done a lot of soul searching and praying and talking to God, and we feel like the time is right to at least start back up again.
Well,
and you.
Yeah. So out of the blue, well, not really out of the blue. I guess it kind of started last year.
It started slowly, and then it went bam.
Yeah. Actually, kind of started last year. It had 4 viruses in 6 weeks. Started at Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. Not this year, but a year ago. Went through to January, right after January. And the last one was, the first one we didn't know the virus, the second one was the influenza A, the third one was RSV, and the fourth one was COVID. I've had that like that was the fourth time. Not real bad that I had it, but with that many in a short amount of time, my body just said, I'm done, and just shut down. And I slowly kind of came back, and then we went to Israel.
We did.
And everything was great until there was a couple episodes on the trip that I literally thought my heart was going to explode.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
No, it was kind of scary. But then we came back, and I kind of was okay again.
And you talked to the doctor, and they just said, monitor, you know.
Yeah, just watch it. And I get this pounding. Maybe you've experienced that. And the blood pressure started going up for no particular reason. So we just kind of watched it, and then I had an episode actually where, I was not right, and things were getting more out of hand with the blood pressure. I had been on some medication that made it worse, and ended me up in the emergency room. And they looked at me and basically, why are you here? And then said, well, if you have any of these symptoms, call us. And I'm like, I'm literally having 5 of the 6 symptoms.
Which is why
out the door.
Right.
Anyway, so time went on, and then had another episode while I was walking, gone about 1.5 miles, and we were going up some more hills, and this was different symptoms and definitely more of a heart attack. And my hook crook ended up in a bigger town in a bigger emergency room, and they did a whole bunch of tests and made things worse with more medication, I think, than not. And then Christmas Eve. Just kind of kept coming more and more. It was becoming to where I was having daily pain, and then Christmas Eve, after having 4 services that day, that night, about halfway through the last service, it hit pretty bad. And it that's a problem. I've been in the medical profession, and so it makes you want to go all the least to a doctor. But when you start having the pain, and it goes down your arm and up your neck and into your jaw and your ear, and you start having low back pain, and you start sweating, it's like, that's all the classic signs of a heart attack for a woman. But according to their little tests, I did not. But it was also Christmas Eve, and I was not going to go to the emergency room. I was not. And we had a blizzard the next day, and I'm glad I did not, because I would have not have gotten out.
Yep.
And no, God's good. I just took a bunch of aspirin, and my
this is not a segment of what to do. This would be more like a what's not to do. Just throwing that out there as a disclaimer.
But I have been to a cardiologist, another one. And he basically said, I'm a head scratcher. They don't know. Everything that happens is opposite of what it should, and my reactions to the medication are opposite of what it should. So there you go. We're waiting to see. And he was muddling some things under his breath. He thought this was maybe secondary for a primary cause, and I didn't like the words that I was hearing being muddled. So we're just going to table that, and we're just going to wait, and we're going to carry on. And
not that you're ignoring it, you're going to continue going to the doctor and stuff, but you're not going to think about those
things.
That's right.
We're going to wait, because I have had too many friends who immediately see or know something, and they start Googling, or they start thinking about it, and their imagination runs wild, and they've got everything under the sun and about 2 steps dead, and then find out that that's not it at all. There's no point in doing that.
Borrowing trouble. That's what my mom calls it. Is that what it's called? Borrowing trouble.
Yeah, no, I don't need to borrow it. I
you find it all enough.
So anyway, that's, again, not a woe is me by any means. It's more of an annoyance than anything, because
you haven't felt it for quite some time.
And I've always said the best analogy is I've always been the Energizer Bunny. And then it turned into more like Duracell. It was long lasting, just didn't have that oomph. And now I'm at Ever Ready, and it's not even so much of that. And now we've gotten to the part where it's rechargeable. It's a old rechargeable battery. It just doesn't hold its charge. Which is frustrating for somebody like me who is going all the time. And it's like, I have felt more exhaustion in the last couple of months than I ever have. And I don't like that.
The mind is willing, but the body is not able.
Yeah. Especially when the routine and your, what do I want to say?
I have no idea.
Schedule or whatever doesn't allow for that.
Oh, yeah. No, it doesn't.
Throw in the daily every week, plus added things and added crises and funerals and you name it. So
which would be why we haven't recorded an episode in quite some time.
Yeah.
Because there just hasn't been the appropriate time and energy to...
Let best laid plans, though. See, I think that's the laugh, maybe part of it from God, because the last time we recorded, we said, okay, we're going to just do this. We're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and we're going to have it all done, so that way I can just start editing everything, get it, so we can start putting it up, and we'll just have it up every week. And then what ones didn't we get? 2 and 3. So it doesn't do any good if I got 4 or 5. I can't get those
2 and 3, gone. 2 and 3, gone.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
And then, with my husband, John, for those of you who may or may not know, he was in a really bad car accident 2 years ago, work-related, and he suffered quite a bit of brain trauma out of the deal. We've been very fortunate. I mean, he walked away, which was a godsend in itself.
It was.
And when things kind of start getting better, then it's like about 14 steps back, and it's that seesaw back and forth, And I can only imagine, I know what it's like being on the caregiver side, but I can only imagine what that's like for him, because just when things are going good and he thinks, okay, now I can do this. He knew his boss was retiring and he was going to have to go out on his own, and this had been the plan all along. And then when things aren't getting better and kind of going backwards, then you start going, okay, can I even make this work?
Right.
And so that's been kind of the issue. You end up with a 50-year-old that's going, what do I want to be when I grow up? And that's a good question. I want to keep asking myself that too.
So you plan on growing up one day?
My grandpa had a sign that said growing old is mandatory, but growing up is optional.
It's true. There are days I embrace that.
So there's just so many unknowns. And what do you do in life when there are so many unknowns? If you're not a Christian, if you don't have God and Christ at the center of that, it would cause you to go absolutely nuts at times.
Oh, absolutely. The last year hasn't been a cakewalk, but looks like it compared to the last 6 weeks. And so nothing that we accomplished over the last year would have happened without God. Mm-hmm. Not one single thing. I don't know that I could put a coherent sentence together at this point in time without his support and presence, and knowing that there is a plan, and without knowing that ultimately he's got this, because I certainly don't have the capacity to handle it on my own by any stretch.
That's kind of why we thought we'd come to you today just like this. We're looking at change. We're going to change up the studio, hopefully, coming up. It may look the same for 2 and 3, because then 4 and 5 will look like it.
Right. That's right. Gotta go backwards, and then, because we don't want to have to re-record 4 and 5. They were good!
They were good. So, 6 and 7 on, and hopefully this will be kind of changed up. But, you haven't had a chance to really get to know us unless you literally know us. But even then, most people don't really know who we are.
Right.
And just because we sit on the other side of the camera doesn't mean that we're not real people just like you.
We have struggles, and
we have the same real problems.
Tough days, and
and I know that there are many out there. I bring this stuff up because we could go ahead and keep recording and act like nothing's been wrong, nothing's been happening, but that's just not real.
It isn't.
And that's not life.
No, and we don't ever want it to look like we think that we have all the answers, or that we do, or that our lives are perfect, or
we have it all together.
Nope.
That's why it's called Get Real.
That's right.
I think that's why I love this picture. And while we'll probably be changing the picture, but this is still one of my favorites, because Peter thought he had it all together. He was so excited, and he goes to Jesus, if it's you, let me come out to you. And he says, come. And so he says, command me to come. And he goes walking out on the water. But when life started, as long as everything was okay, and he kept his focus on Jesus, he was doing good. Mm-hmm. But the minute he started looking at the storm, the sounds, the sights, and the water hitting him in the face, he started to panic. Mm-hmm. And he lost sight of Jesus for just that moment. And that's all it took, was a moment. He had so much faith to get out of the boat and go that far, but just in a split second, he took his eyes off and he started to focus on the storm around. He started to sink like a rock.
Mm-hmm. But he didn't have to do anything, because Jesus met him where he was.
Mm-hmm. He didn't have to try to swim back up to get a hand up. No, Jesus reached down. And that's why I love this. Where's the water? Mm-hmm. Jesus literally reached down in and pulled Peter back up.
And he will do that for every single one of us. And many of us have experienced those kinds of times.
You know, most people that you talk to and you ask, they didn't meet God at the high mountaintop experiences.
No.
When they came to him. You can experience him definitely there.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's usually in the pit and in the valley. Especially in a pit where it feels like someone's even taken the ladder out.
Mm-hmm.
When you have no place lower to go. Now, why does God allow that? Because when you're at the lowest point, you have no place to look but
up.
And he will reach into that pit, just like the water, and pull us out. So if you're in a spot like that, where maybe you're feeling your head's underwater, maybe you're dealing with family issues. Maybe you're dealing with something that, so you're on the mental health side, I'm on the medical side, but there's always that where you go from being the provider to being the patient, or from being the mental health professional to being the one on the other side, seeing what it looks like to receive that. All different stuff. It becomes difficult. It could even be such a thing as you're the one that's used to giving all the time, and all of a sudden you find yourself, because of life events, on the receiving end. That could be really hard to do too, especially if you're somebody who likes to give, that would be me. It's really hard to receive. But I had a pastor say something once. Well, we're going to assume it was a pastor. I heard it from somebody. I'll give him credit.
Some random pastor said.
But it was sounded wise, whoever had given it to me.
This is why I love her.
They said the problem is, if you don't receive a gift, you are denying that other person the gift of giving. And I never really looked at it that way. So if you have somebody that comes to your house and wants to shovel your walk or shovel your driveway, don't just stand there and go, oh, no, don't. They are wanting to give that gift to you, or they wouldn't have done it. If somebody shows up and says, hey, I want to take the kids for a day, don't say no. Accept the gift. That is so important on such a level, because it's not just about us.
Right.
We have to remember that God has put other people on their heart to be the giver as well.
And it can really, if you let it, fill both your cups.
Well, exactly. Because if you are the giver and you want to give, how would you feel if they didn't receive your gift?
It kind of stinks when that happens.
Yeah. It takes away your joy. So the same thing, when you refuse to receive something, you take away their joy. That was sound advice.
It was.
Changed my perspective.
That's good.
So we're at a new year. New beginnings. My theme was looking for more in 24, but now I'm wondering what the more is. I should have been a little more specific of what the more was I wanted.
More good, more positive.
Not more at 23.
Yeah.
Well, I picked up this sign. I had gotten this sign a long time ago. And it says, hope is the joyful expectation of something good. What does that mean to you?
It means that when we have hope, we know without a doubt that something good is coming, even if it doesn't feel like it at that time.
That's what I said with David. He says, where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord. My hope, He was in despair.
He was.
But he knew, even with everything that he did wrong, even with every time he sinned, he still knew where to look. He still trusted God, even when he had done the worst thing possible. And God said, I'm going to give you 3 punishments. David was smart enough to say, I fall on your mercy. Even in that, he didn't try to choose.
Right.
That's another good lesson. So if you're in a spot where maybe you're needing some hope right now, maybe you're going, oh, I'm so glad 23 is done. I can't wait for more in 24. But maybe it's still looking like the continuation. And you go, that's not what I had planned. Well, 24 just started.
It did.
It's not over by a long shot.
Nope. 7 days in.
I think God has a lot in store this year for a lot of people. I think this ministry is really going to take off even more. We know we're on the right track because the enemy's not happy about it.
No.
He keeps sabotaging all of our equipment.
I can't tell you the amount of technical difficulties for absolutely no reason we've had in so many ways.
Including even recording for church.
Yep.
Depending on what we were talking about, the subject.
Yeah. It
It's
just
very interesting.
glitches out. And I mean, I've had the camera say a couple of things and I'm like, I don't even think you're programmed to say that. That doesn't even make sense.
Batteries that just up and die or
Disappear.
Yeah, it is. So I guess we wanted to come to you a little more relaxed. In fact, we're going to change that up too. I think our program, we're not going to have, the whole thing is kind of the meat potatoes and what do you do with that. So instead of segmenting it out.
Right. We don't do very well with it anyways. We end up saying things for part of one because that's just how we are. We just like to talk. I don't know if you've realized that, but we actually do.
I know. So we thought, well, we're going to be a little looser and not try to be quite so professional. And the joy break, we may throw one in every now and then, but we're just going to have a little more fun and a lot more joy as we go through instead of editing it all out.
Well, you might still have to edit out occasionally, but not nearly so much.
I know.
If there are parents out there, can I just say as a side note that parenting is really hard.
Even when they're grown and out of the house, it doesn't get any easier.
It doesn't get any easier. But there are certainly certain seasons. I mean, I think each season you're in seems like the most difficult one. I have a full-on teenager and an almost teenager. And, you know, when they're younger, you can corral them easier and they talk back somewhat less. And the things that you think are horribly difficult and challenging to deal with do seem to pale in comparison to some of the things that happen when they get older. So I guess I would say if there are parents out there that are struggling, know that you're not alone in the fact that it's really hard. And know that you're not alone if there are days when you absolutely do not feel like you can do it, that you must be failing in everything. And when there are moments when you don't offer as much grace or patience or
Compassion.
as maybe you think you should or others think you should, that God always offers us all of that and more. And with God by your side and walking with you and sometimes carrying you and perhaps dragging you, because we've been there in all of those situations.
That reminds me of the cartoon that I saw. Jesus is where you see the one set of footprints, that was me carrying you. Where you see the line in the sand is where I was dragging you, kicking and screaming. That would probably be more like it, I think.
Absolutely. If you let him, he will be there. And you know, I really, really try hard to look at God as the ultimate example of parent. And by no means am I anywhere close to perfecting that. But when I'm, I guess on the moments when I really question if I'm doing something the right way, I look at how God parents us. And I look at it that sometimes he has to correct us. And sometimes I think that's probably as hard on him as it is on us. But he does it because he loves us. And if we don't change what we're doing, he turns the heat up a little bit. You know, I have been in plenty of times where I was headed in the wrong direction in full confidence and I wasn't listening, and he just put a brick wall there and I had to run into it. And so that just completely reminded me of the very first episode we did, because then you were like, we just died. I was like, what are you doing? And she was like, like my nose was sore.
It's funny because I was just thinking about it. Wow, even our memories have gone. I remember I did.
That's too well, but you have the instinct to do it again. That's just funny. Oh my goodness. So anyhow, just know that you're not alone and that you can talk to God about it. I mean, I do all the time because He knows what it's like, and even if it feels like maybe He wouldn't, He is the ultimate Father and the ultimate parent. And
He's had his feelings hurt a lot of times when his kids have been rebellious and refused to do what
they needed to do.
And the rules weren't there to be mean.
No.
It was to keep them out of trouble.
Yeah. And that's one thing I talk about with my boys. What are our rules for? To keep us safe, to keep us healthy, and
actually you can have more fun when you live within boundaries. There's all that freedom and latitude within those boundaries. We always think, what's that called? The grass is greener on the other side, but no, it's filled with the same fertilizer.
Especially if you have a big dog like I do.
And you get out on the other side and then you start wandering and get lost and find out it isn't yours. Good.
No, it's not. So, but just as an offering of hope for parents, and if you're going through things, if your kids are experiencing difficulty, just know that I'm with you in that. Feel free to reach out. I would be happy to email or message back and forth and just offer some support. Certainly offer to pray with you and for you, because like I said, parenting is hard, in case anybody hadn't figured that out yet. One of the most challenging and the most rewarding things. But remembering that we're not in it alone, and remembering that even when we're not perfect, that God is there to kind of help us pick up the pieces and put things back together, and that He knows the ultimate plan and is truly where our ultimate hope lies.
Well, and you have the 2 boys, and I have 3 girls, and while the youngest just graduated, rather 2 of them in college and the other one just out on her own, it hasn't been that long ago from dealing with 3 girls and all the school drama and all that. So I've been there and done that too, in my fair share. So between the 2 of us, we kind of balance each other out pretty good.
All boys, all girls, yeah.
Had pretty much the gambit of experience.
Yeah.
And if we want to know anything more about boys, just have to ask my husband. He's full of information.
Sometimes useful and sometimes not, but he is full of information.
Information. Did I mean opinion? Maybe that's more more opinion than
potentially.
Yeah, well, mine is both.
Well, yeah, both is good. Both is good.
Well, I think it's kind of neat that since we're talking about hope, that you even named one of your animals.
I did. Our dog's name is Hope. And I hope that as the 95-pound German Shepherd that she is, she stops trying to be a lap dog and thinking that everybody wants to be greeted with a hug when they get to the house. And I don't know that she'll like my kids' friends a little bit more.
Well, we're glad we could spend this time with you today, and I don't know about you, but I like this relaxed atmosphere where
it just feels more like us.
Yeah, because we spend, as if you don't know, we spend the whole time usually laughing.
We do.
If you saw my edits on all the other ones, 2 hours of recording to come up with maybe an hour of content.
When you see a little bloop, boop, that's because we looked at each other and started laughing, or we couldn't pronounce a word, or we said something that made us think of something funny, or sometimes she has to be a genius trying to put all that together.
It's called transition. It's a neat little tool. Well, we hope that this finds you well and excited for a new year, and excited that maybe you're looking for more in 24 as well.
Yes.
I know we are here at the ministry, and we're so glad for the relationship that we have already developed with you guys, and we were afraid that we didn't want to lose that. We didn't want you to think like we'd fallen off the face of the earth. I think we almost wondered, but we were hanging on.
We were.
We're back, And we will start working on 2 and 3 for the 4th time, and then we will get that up, and 4 and 5 will come pretty quick. So this is an exciting thing, this study on Revelation. I've been doing it for our church, and we're going to dig in a lot more. So if you go to my YouTube, the messages are on there, and so we're just going to be able to have more time to break down each of those chapters
and just really dig in.
Dig in, yes, because there's so much that applies to now, and it's so cool that almost all the references out of those 404 verses, it's like what, 362 or something, were all referenced in the Old Testament.
Right.
If you're a good Jewish person, you know most everything that John was talking about, but we just don't from a Western 21st century perspective, yeah.
Which is why we're here to help make those connections.
Yeah, and it's not so big and scary, and it's not so hard to understand when it's broken down and you start seeing and putting those pieces of the puzzle together, and you go, oh my gosh, it's right there.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. You're gonna love it.
I'm pumped. So, until next time,
Shalom.